Today we're covering why we still need to talk about Bitcoin. I know. After all the craze and all the hype is over, why do we still need to talk about Bitcoin? The more that I talk to people, the more that I realize that people don't really know much about it still. So if you'd like to learn a few of the basics surrounding the idea of Bitcoin, here we go. Let me start off by saying that I personally am very excited about Bitcoin, but I realize that not everybody agrees with maybe some of my viewpoints, and that's totally okay. Based on the research I've done, I feel like Bitcoin is a good fit for me. But it's up to each person to decide for themselves whether Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency is a good fit for them. So just keep that in mind. I am simply just explaining what I find fascinating about Bitcoin. All right, number one, Bitcoin's unique design. Bitcoin is a digitally encrypted currency. So this encryption keeps the currency accountable to certain rules and restrictions programmed right into the infrastructure. For instance, there can only ever be 21 million Bitcoin ever in existence in the entire world. This artificial scarcity was programmed by consent of everyone involved in its creation. I think the idea was to create a currency that couldn't just be printed into hyperinflation. Bitcoin's design allows people to receive funds publicly without actually revealing their identity or any of their private account info. Unlike Visa or MasterCard, Bitcoin is a payment network that is run by everybody running a Bitcoin processing server. It's kind of an interesting idea, but Bitcoin is not a corporation, it's not a company, it's not a business, it's not owned by anybody. There's no president or CEO. It is a decentralized concept. In the same way, the internet is a combination of everything that everybody adds to it. Nobody necessarily owns the internet. Bitcoin is not owned by any one person. It's kind of a conglomeration of everybody who uses it, everybody who runs the Bitcoin processing servers. One of the great practical aspects of its decentralized nature is that you control your funds as if you are your own bank. So you don't have to go to a bank and ask to withdraw your money. You don't have to follow any of the bank's limits or rules or, with daily withdrawal limits or anything like that. It's actually your money. Versus when you go to a bank, you lend them your money and they hold it in your account for you. Bitcoin's different in the sense that this is actually yours and you don't have to ask anybody for permission to use it. Another design aspect of Bitcoin is that it's highly divisible. It's kind of like the way that the dollar is divisible into pennies. Bitcoin is divisible into microscopic digital bits. So you don't need to ever buy one full Bitcoin. One of the central themes to Bitcoin's design is it's called a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. So you can send funds without the use of a bank. You don't need to wire money to anybody. It's completely managed by the network. So Bitcoin is also borderless, meaning it doesn't follow the same restraints that government, national currencies follow, fiat currencies. When you're in Spain, you have to use euros, or you're in London and you have to use the pound or the dollar in America. Bitcoin is borderless, so you can use it literally anywhere you go, given that the person or business that you're transacting with uses Bitcoin. There's no geographic restriction of where to use Bitcoin. In order to run all of these Bitcoin transactions, the network requires processing power. So they programmed Bitcoin to reward people who were willing to use their processing servers to devote to running these transactions. So this is called Bitcoin mining. And they designed it so that the inflation or injection of new Bitcoin currency into the Bitcoin ecosystem They designed it so that it would inflate at a decreasing rate. So the more that you mine Bitcoin, the harder it is to earn or find. It's Bitcoin mining in a nutshell. All right, let's move on. Number 2, Bitcoin empowers individuals and communities. Bitcoin puts the power of money and the control of its use back into the hands of individuals. So it creates more freedom for people. They can use money however they see fit. They can earn it and transact with people without any intermediaries, without anybody auditing their income, without any middlemen taking an undue cut of their hard-earned money. It allows a new level of free trade, and it provides what I'll call a separation of money and state. Instead of a currency that is printed, spent, and monitored by the government, it's a currency that is just free to use. It's trying to get back to very basic free trade. Number 3, Bitcoin as a store of value. This is a fun one. Paper currencies are headed for disaster, and Bitcoin might be able to offer protection as a store of value. The government currencies, fiat currencies, are headed for disaster because they're being printed by the trillions and fractionally lent by banks. So $30 trillion in debt over here, and you have a limited max supply of 21 million Bitcoin over here. One is going to pour into the other. So even people who don't really care about Bitcoin, people who don't care about the innovative aspects of the emerging technology, eventually they're going to find Bitcoin attractive, in my opinion, solely due to the fact that as trillions of dollars are printed, they lose their purchasing power over time. And historically, money printing leads to hyperinflation. So even within our lifetime, we've seen prices go up simply due to the fact that there's so much fresh money out there. So this inflation is, one, controlled by government, controlled by banks. It's also, there's no limit to it. So there's no maximum supply of dollars. In theory, you can print as many dollars as you want. Even if you don't really care about Bitcoin, it's worth considering as a store of value in relative purchasing power to a infinitely inflatable dollar. Bitcoin is an entirely new asset class that is deflationary in nature. The rarity and the scarcity and the max supply of a digital currency, which in and of itself isn't worth anything, but if you have two worthless things and one is being printed into infinity and one has a hard cap, even if they're both inherently worthless, people are going to be attracted to the thing that can't be diluted as much. So the relative purchasing power, in theory, will hold out a lot longer than a fiat currency like the dollar. Number 4, Bitcoin as a teacher. Simply learning about Bitcoin will give people a better understanding about the nature of money, economics, and mass market psychology. Even if no one ever buys any more Bitcoin, even if Bitcoin dies, even if something replaces it, or we just all go back to our normal currencies and Bitcoin is an utter failure, just learning about how Bitcoin works is a huge lesson in money management. It's a huge lesson in the nature of money, the history and evolution of money. It's possible that an education in Bitcoin is actually more important than an investment in Bitcoin. A great place to start learning about Bitcoin would be something like The Internet of Money by Andreas Antonopoulos. The Bitcoin Standard is a great book. Again, the documentary Hidden Secrets of Money, which I tell everybody about, is a great foray into the world of Bitcoin. It's all about using financial knowledge to empower you and improve your life. Number 5, Bitcoin potential. As a new technology, there is a huge potential for profit, innovation, and new levels of freedom. So you'll hear people ranting and raving about becoming a Bitcoin millionaire, about trading their way to the top and making huge profits in Bitcoin. And that has happened and will continue to happen. But the potential is so much more than that. There is a potential for an entirely new language of money. So one of the cool things about Bitcoin is that it's a concept that draws people together. Decentralized power in so many different ways. And societies that have an imbalance of power are always societies that end poorly. So these are a few of the basic ideas behind Bitcoin, but there is so much more, and I'll try to cover some more fun stuff in future videos. But in the meantime, if you have any questions or insight of your own, let me know.